Good day to you, Jason here, Birchfield Family Farm, Oxford, Ohio, running grass-fed Red Devon cattle, St Croix sheep, chickens, and pigs in a rotational grazing system. Good word for the day comes from Matthew 10. These are Jesus' words. He's talking to his disciples. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Okay, we are continuing on here in our winter grazing setup today. I want to take you out into the field. We're going to move our fence that running down the 500 feet down the windmill, what we call the windmill pasture here. Let's run some numbers today. Getting close to year end here. We always hear about how great and wonderful and magnificent the stock market did. Blah blah blah. Let's run some numbers though. I got curious and let's see, run some of the different investments here. When we're out in the field, we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll maybe run some numbers on some sheep. I get all the naysayers fired up whenever I do that, so let's poke the bear a little bit here today. Okay, bringing you up to speed here, looking over this field. I'll have Sam up in the sky as well, but there's our fence line that we're coming over to on that east side. We started on the west side of this field, about 500 feet straight down. You guys know that have been following. I have not moved them yet today, so they're hungry and they're ready to go. We'll do that here. Wanted to say though, this is one of our breeding groups of sheep. We've got another second breeding group up there, and then our third breeding group is up there. Yeah, you see the silo there, kind of on the other side of the barns there. Out in that front pasture. And so that's our that's our MO here for this time of the year, right, is running the 3 different bloodlines on the rams. Looking at that pat there, looking really good still. But 3 different breeding groups, and that way anybody that lambs in the month of May, we know exactly who the sire was. I think Mr. Brutus here has got everybody bred except for maybe one very young sheep here, I think is what I saw. So these guys are anxious to move here. Let's get things going. I like to go pretty quick when we start. We'll start the stopwatch here and let's get moving. Okay, this is just the first couple posts here that we moved. I struggle to do this in video at the same time. I don't like stopping here because they get a little pushy, especially sheep and cattle together, but I want to try and get you guys some shots here. But just wanted to show how even just that first move of the fence, they're all about it. And yeah, so sheep are going to go around, cattle are going to run the show, sheep are going to fill in where they can. And we'll just keep running this all the way down. I wanted to show you how they just dig into it. Grass genetics here. Okay, taking a pause here about halfway through. You can see what's happened here. Cattle have kind of stopped. Sheep have continued to follow me down here. Yesterday we were at 320 feet, and I'll have Sam up in the sky here. I'll get some overhead shots for you. 320 off the fence where we started, clear over to what I think was about the widest point, which this fence, I haven't kept it real straight as we've moved. It's kind of gotten, all whopper jawed and whatnot. As you look down through here, it kind of bends out, but whatever, 320 feet. And today is day 51. So 320 divided by 50, or yesterday, we're about, I think that's about 6.4 feet per day is our average here. And yeah, see that? Just tons of horsing around. Okay, yeah, let me keep moving here, and then we'll revisit those numbers. All right, so down here at the end, just under 8 minutes for the move there. Yeah, I just, when we're out here videoing, that's the wild card, is I've got to stop and try and get some shots, and it's like every time I do that, it seems like it gets hairy. Animals are just kind of pushing and shoving, and everybody's jockeying for, you know, position. But yeah, like I was saying, 320 feet and 51 days today. So we're probably, what, 330 maybe? And 51 days. So 330 divided by 51 would be about 6.5. So 6.5 feet per day. You know, our dream goal here was about 90 days. I think we kind of backed off that when I realized we were going to need a little more than I originally anticipated. And you run the numbers with this amount of live weight here, I think we're up above, we're about 160,000 pounds. Live weight animal per acre. So this little strip we give them every day, it's going to be classified more as like a mob graze, really closer to that anyway. But you know, looking at everybody over here, Joy looking great, Daisy, I mean, look at her. I'm just now moving them, and she's got great room and fill. Don't see any kind of bones. I mean, everything is rounded. Just, it's tougher to tell this time. Hey, sweetie, tougher to tell this time of the year with the heavy coats. Devons have one of the thicker coats, but I am very, very pleased with how this has gone. Sam was up in the sky there, and kind of, there's your two bulls working out their differences there, Mr. Hank and Big Pat. Big Pat's not messing around today. But Sandra was saying from the sky, you know, saying, hey, Dad, it looks like we're about 3/4 of the way through. So that's the fence right there. This is what we have left here. Okay, looking at this. Look at this late December. Late December here. Look at the clover. Look at the green clover. Just phenomenal. I mean, I get so many people ask me, hey, you know, what should we seed? What should we, you know, if we till up ground, you know, what should we reseed it? Man, the longer I do this, the more I come back to just native species. Find animals that can thrive on fescue. Okay, fescue and native clovers, which for us around here is the red clover. Still have some chicory stems in here. There's an old chicory stem. Those are still mixed in here. But we did a little bit like with mowing. This area here is not mowed. This area here was. You can see the difference. See where everybody's at, right? Except for one. That's Emma down there. She's even over. That was a strip. You can see the strip we mowed there. So we're kind of onto that today. So they are definitely favoring the shorter, greener stuff, and that's just you know, going to be higher in protein and energy this time of the year. And so looking forward, yeah, we've said before, I would be very, very happy if I could get just 60 days. We originally said 90, but then kind of realized, yeah, they're going to need a little bit more. And I think with the height of our grass here, we just didn't leave a whole bunch here. I mean, this is it's pretty good stuff here, but definitely shorter than that up there that was not clipped. I think there's a balance there. I know there is. And it's just trying to find that height to where you're getting them the dry matter that they need, but they also have adequate protein and energy. It also has a lot to do with timing things up, with not being in, just being in the very early stages of the reproductive cycle here. You don't want anybody late gestation or early lactation for that matter. A lot of bluebacks here. That's what we want to see. Brutus has done a great job. So yeah, she's a machine. Yeah, Emma's 14 years old, more of the phenotype of that American milking Devon, and she's something. Throws a calf every single year, you know, raises it, weans it, does it all. Just a wonderful animal. Big fan of these Red Devons, very hardy on grass alone. No issues with endophyte toxicity on fescue. Very thick hair coat. I would say on the Devons, I had somebody asking the other day, I would say not really as maybe heat tolerant as some of the other breeds, but the trade-off there is I just feel like they do so well in the wintertime. Devons were actually disqualified from the feedlots back in the 1950s because they put on too much fat. So that's the exact type of animal that I want here on grass. We've got to be able to put the fat on the carcass and do that on all grass, and do that on species that would, in large part be toxic to some animals. This fescue, endophyte toxicity, no issues here with our sheep or cattle. And what a tremendous blessing to not have to be out here seeding or horsing around with any of that business, but just having the animals thrive on what we have here, native pasture. We are unseasonably warm today out here. I think we're around 50 degrees. I think tomorrow, I think we're supposed to hit 65. So one of the last videos we did, we were like negative 18 degrees with the wind chill. So, you got to have animals that can handle this, that can take those temperature swings. And, for us here, again, doing it on grass here. And it's a lot of joy in that for me. You guys familiar with the channel know I like to run numbers periodically, but this time of the year it always intrigues me, right? Because we're, it's year end, and we get to hear about all the propping up, S&P 500, returns, Dow 30, how'd we do this year? I think S&P I saw was up 17% this year, right? Dow's done well, 14.5%. I think, you look at the S&P over time, what do they say? Yielding somewhere between 9 and 11%, I think. And, we hear all these numbers at year end, and it's always a whitewashing and a window dressing and a, hey, look how great the economy is and all this and all that. Meanwhile, average Joe on Main Street knows that inflation has not been tamed. It hasn't been taken care of. We have a Federal Reserve that's lowering interest rates. So expect more of the same with inflation, and the middle class to continue to have pressure put on them. My opinion here, and what I'm about to tell you and say, is certainly not financial advice. Not a financial advisor, but I think it's interesting to look at some of these numbers. And even getting into some of the other asset classes like gold and silver, and look at the chart here on gold, just to the moon, right? Over $4,500 an ounce. I think silver is now nearing $80 an ounce. Well, let's look at some of these asset classes. I thought, sure, everything's had a good year this past year, but let's take something a little more long term here. Let's look at a 20-year analysis. Okay, let's go back 20 years. So let's start in 2006, as we'll keep the animals grazing here in the background as we talk. But let's do an analysis let's do the Dow 30. Okay, let's do the S&P 500. Let's, SPX. Let's do gold. Let's do silver. And let's throw sheep in there. Let's throw sheep in there as an asset class, and kind of what, somewhat realistic of what we've seen here as we're coming into our 8th lambing here. Let's run some of these numbers. Let's start with Dow 30. So if let's say you took $5,000 and you chucked it at each one of these asset classes, how would it have performed for the past 20 years? Okay, the Dow 30, your $5,000 investment would be about a little over $22,000 now. That's about a 4-fold increase. Okay, S&P 500, SPX, $5,000 would have turned into almost $27,000. Okay, five-fold increase. Okay, gold. Let's look at gold. $530 an ounce back in 2006. And it's over $4,500 now. So your $5,000 investment would be worth $42,773 today. That's an 8-fold increase. Check out silver. Silver, $9.08 back in 2006. It's $79.25, I believe, as of now, as of close of business yesterday. You would have $5,000 investment back in 2006 in silver would now be worth $43,639, about a 9-fold increase. First point I want to make here is gold and silver way outperforming the Dow 30 and S&P 500. Boy, isn't that an embarrassment to the establishment? You know that their rigged up market, okay, their rigged market can't even keep up with gold and silver. Gold and silver have done almost twice what the Dow and S&P 500 have. Man, what an embarrassment. But let's keep going. Let's take sheep. Let's say back in 2006, you made a $5,000 investment in a flock of sheep. Okay, so let's say back then, let's say they were $250 a head. Okay, and you know there's a ram in there as well. Obviously, you're going to need a ram. Say you started with 20 ewes. Okay, and you dropped $5,000. Now the parameters on this, I'm going to lay down some parameters here. Let's assume an average lambing rate every year of 1.1 lambs per ewe. That's very low. Okay, we have a goal here on the farm to be up around 2.0 lambs per ewe. Let's just say 1.1. Let's try and be conservative with this. Let's say the average life, the productive life on a ewe, let's just assume is 7 years. So every 7 years, we're going to delete those ewes that would have passed away. And then let's assume also each year you lose 10% of the entire flock. Every single year, you have 10% losses. On that 1.1 lambs per ewe, let's say half of those are rams, half of those are ewes. We pretty much see that every year here. And each year, let's say you're just harvesting all the rams. We'll throw the meat back in. Okay, on the value, let's just assume 20 pounds of meat per ram. You know, you're going to harvest them in that first year. 20 pounds of meat per carcass. Let's say $10 a pound, which is pretty low. Now that $250, when we value the ewes, okay, when we value those, we're gonna stay at that $250, which is nowhere near market pricing now. So in other words, this is going to be very conservative, this analysis here. Okay, let's take a look at these numbers. 20 years out here, you know, we're those ewes are continuing to compound each year. Remember, we're skimming 10% off. Everybody, we lose 10% every year. And even so, even doing that, even running conservative numbers here, 1.1 lambs per ewe, at the end of 20 years, we end up with over almost $1.4 million in value on these sheep. What? You know, again, you know, looking down through here, the Dow had a 4-fold increase. S&P 500 had a 5-fold increase. Gold was 8-fold. Silver was 9-fold. Your $5,000 sheep investment, worth almost $1.4 million, was 277-fold increase. Now, when I put out numbers like this, I have the naysayers just come out of the woodwork. You're not including any kind of fencing or your costs, or this cost or that cost, or okay, absolutely, and I agree. This is not an exhaustive analysis here, okay? So don't take it as such. You have many more costs to raising livestock. Couple of the main points that I want to make here. Number one, why isn't your financial advisor calling you, telling you about the tremendous investment in sheep that you can make? Well, why don't you hear? Because they're not making commissions off of when your animals multiply. And that's the point here. The point that I want to make to the American middle class right now is that God's blessing is still in multiplication. It's in the created order and in multiplication, and to a large extent, and we still pay taxes here, we still have them in our business, okay, the establishment, but to a large extent, they can't touch our multiplication here. There is still the blessing of God in multiplication on the land, off of grass. Okay, that is still there. He's still blessing that system within the created order, ruminant animals taking grass and making it into meat, milk, and more animals. That blessing of the Lord is still active. Okay, that's the main point that I want to make here. And the other point I want to make is you take any single year here that we have had sheep, that we have lambed, and you figure out the return. And, I could go back and do that, but I can tell you this. Every single year, we mop the floor with Dow 30 returns. Okay, this piddly little, 9.3, 10% or whatever. And it's like this throughout the created order. We did this one year with a sorghum plant. We took one seed and planted it and then harvested all of the seeds off of that sorghum plant. It was like 440,000% annualized return. Okay, the blessing is still built into the created order, and the Lord is still blessing in this way. That's my personal opinion and belief. I look back and I wish we would have invested 3, 4, 5 times as much as we did our initial sheep investment because they have been a fit for us. But there is context in agriculture, okay? Everybody's situation is different. I get that. But the blessing of ruminant animals on grass and them making high quality, high omega-3, healthy meat. I know I'm going to have people here, with the markets, you don't have to do anything. You just sit there and click buttons on the computer. You still have inputs. You still have your computer, all of the servers and the cooling that's needed for, to run all the baloney. I don't care what it is. If it's AI, if it's stock market, if it's, whatever, 277-fold increase, right? And this is the original compound interest. We'll get the naysayers coming out of the woodwork. That is absolutely fine. I want to make the point that the blessing of the Lord is still active. The creation is still multiplying, and there are still joyful ways of being involved in this. And again, back to we don't do anything on the market. Yes, we do have to be out here. We have to move animals. We don't have to. We choose to move animals every day. Gee, maybe we were meant to kind of be outside as well and breathe fresh air and actually get some exercise, as we move the animals. Maybe that was part of what was intended as well. Look, don't miss the main point here, okay, is my point. The problem with our culture in America now is that we have these silos of thinking. If you're going to farm, then you're in this silo over here, which is somebody that's in overalls that we call a hillbilly, that is very poor, doesn't do well financially. I mean, that's the whole stereotype. And these silos and these ways of thinking are just it's not reality. Is my point. And so that's part of just what we do here. My job here on the channel is to drop seeds, okay, and you better believe I will do that. Some of those will take root, some of them won't. That's the way it works. And so take what you can use, let the rest fall away. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and be well, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.